Life has been kind of crazy lately. We just came out of nearly 2 years of staying at home pretty much all the time, and adapting to how busy our lives have gotten has been pretty surreal. Recently, my fiance and I packed up and relocated to accommodate the hectic schedules and growing demand with the scale of work on my plate. On top of our movers being almost 2 weeks late to deliver all of our stuff, we didn't take a single day off in the whole process. I'm incredibly lucky that I've been able to turn this passion of mine into a full-time career. I'm here in New York City working on a commercial with an amazing group of people. It's great. Life has been amazing. I'm certainly not complaining by any means. But sometimes this definitely feels, well, like a job. I used to be able to slap a GorillaPod on my camera, run out the door, film, create whatever I wanted. Simply put, there wasn't much structure to how or why I did anything in the first place. And for somebody pursuing a passion, pursuing a hobby, that's an incredible way to work. But as somebody trying to build a professional career, that's probably one of the worst ways you could approach it. So as I've grown and scaled as a professional, it's been crucial for me to develop rigid systems that have helped me streamline my processes to allow me to deliver the results my clients expect, and more often than not on deadlines that can be pretty crazy, to say the least. And I'm really proud that I've been able to accomplish this. It's been a dream of mine. It took a lot of time and work spent unlearning bad habits and replacing them with good ones. One of the side effects to developing these systems to turn your passion into a career is that you run the risk of cross-contamination, where you focus so intensely on these systems that it becomes nearly impossible to approach your passion and not just immediately enter work mode. Look, I've had my fair share of experiences with burnout. There was even a point in time where I literally couldn't bring myself to pick up my camera. Like, in fact, if you go through my YouTube upload history, you'll clearly be able to see when that point in time was. I felt so confused how something I loved so much, something I spent so much time and energy building, could become such a big stressor for me in my life, to the point that I questioned whether or not I'd ever be able to repair my relationship with it and achieve those goals I had set for myself. Fortunately, I was able to climb out of that rut and move forward with my career, but I've had to work really hard to build certain guardrails to avoid falling back into it again. To be honest, something I've truly come to miss about the way I used to create was my openness to experimentation. Like, really, back when I started, it wasn't uncommon for me to create 1, sometimes even 2 videos or small little edits in a single day. Like, I was trying to do the daily vlogging thing, making random little cinematic sequences on the weekends. The tools and styles, the ways I chose to shoot were always up in the air, and that was exciting. Experimentation is at the heart of creativity, and the same guardrails that help keep my professional life on track can also limit creative expression and the spirit that fuels the passion that started all of this in the first place. I've had to learn to make it a point to work very intentionally outside of the structures that I set for myself in my professional work. From the gear that I use or the way that I edit, it's important to change things up and keep that experimental fire alive. So in the midst of all of the chaos, the travel, the Zoom calls, the storyboards, let's throw it all out the window and try something completely different from how we've been creating for the last year. Okay, so here's the plan. Let's ditch the shot lists. Let's ditch the story. Let's ditch trying to make something artsy and just go out and shoot something with our camera because we want to make something for fun, make something cool. This is the Helios 44-2. If you've never heard of this thing before, it is an incredibly popular and unique vintage Soviet lens. What's so cool is that it's really cheap. I think I picked this one up for about 40 bucks a few years back, and I forget just how amazing this lens is. This is a 58mm lens that produces an incredibly unique textured image with tons of very filmic character. It has this kind of swirly bokeh that almost looks anamorphic in some ways. For those of you film people out there, you might know that this lens was actually used for some shots in the newest Batman film. I found that lately I've been gravitating toward wider focal lengths. I shoot a lot on 24, 35, occasionally some longer shots for certain parts of a story. Something like this 58mm is definitely not what I would initially think to just pick up and stick on my camera if I wanted to go out and shoot for fun. So this is our first piece to the puzzle. Okay, next, let's think about stabilization. Usually most of us probably gravitate toward just literally grabbing our camera and walking out the door when we want to go take some photos or some videos for fun. But as I'm sure you all know, there's a lot more to it than that. If you want ultra smooth shots, you would maybe grab a gimbal. If you want to shoot handheld, you'd maybe rig up your camera with a bunch of stuff to make it super smooth and stable, or grab a tripod or a slider. One weird little trick I remember doing way back when I first started making videos was to use a tripod like a gimbal. I didn't have the money to buy a gimbal, or let alone the skills to even really know how to utilize one. So what I did was just picked my camera up with the tripod in hand and allowed the mass and weight of the tripod to keep the camera stable. So if I use these two legs, I can kind of like apply pressure outwards, like pull my arms apart, and it creates like a nice tension and balance. This is a 50mm lens, or actually I think it's like a 58mm, especially walking or trying to get, some smooth movement. And honestly, it's surprising how smooth of shots you can get with this. The heavier the tripod you have, the better this will work. It certainly doesn't produce a glide cam or steady cam type of feel, but it is so much better than just shooting handheld alone. Add in the fact that we're shooting with a pretty tight lens and the stabilization is really impressive here. I'm using this, my little travel tripod that I've talked about before, 80 bucks on Amazon or something like that. Pretty light, but it's enough to add just extra center of gravity and mass underneath the camera that we can walk around and get some clean, natural looking camera movement. While we were in New York City, even though I was on a client project, getting to walk around with this kind of funny little setup and just capture moments around me was refreshing and exciting. And it really did bring back memories of what inspired me to start creating videos in the first place.
This is amazing. We love this. Oh, this is kind of cool. Another day in New York. Another day in the city.
The most important thing to remember here, the most important piece to this mindset, if you will, is to not fall into routine in any part of the process. For me, the edit is definitely where it's easiest to fall into my work routine, especially once you've developed a definitive style and have a look that clients, come to expect with what you deliver. One tool that I recently started playing with is CinemaGrade. For me, color grading, as many of you know, is a big part of my style and the way that I like to create things. My switch to DaVinci Resolve not only improved my work, but also taught me a lot about color and color grading. I gotta admit though, it is a very steep learning curve, and achieving cinematic looking color in your footage takes a lot of practice and learning. CinemaGrade is an incredible intuitive color grading plugin that works inside of DaVinci, Premiere, and Final Cut. It allows for point and click color grading that makes the process feel a lot more kind of like editing a photo inside of maybe Lightroom. This allows creators to achieve those big cinematic Hollywood looking colors without all of the complex understanding of the tools inside of something like DaVinci. It also opens the doors to new creators to a proper industry standard workflow by being able to bring all of your clips into a coloring suite at one time. This allows for a much faster and more efficient way to match shot to shot and also apply your final grading across multiple clips. It's essentially like a cheat code to being able to achieve proper looking color grading without all of the complex knowledge of something like DaVinci Resolve. evolve. Even for someone like myself who edits and colors full-time in DaVinci, using something like this is still so refreshing, being able to approach color in a way that I haven't in a long time. I remember the first time I started to color more creatively within my videos, and yeah, I think we all know just how rough that can look. But Cinema Grade makes it flat out simple and fun to tackle color grading in your content. Getting to pull in all of the footage that I shot, color it in a pretty different way than I have before, even using the built-in LUTs that come with it. I'm honestly really impressed with how good some of these shots look. It's also pretty cool that this program was created by a professional industry colorist, Denver Riddle. Some of you might know him here on YouTube. He recognized that there was a big gap in the industry with creatives wanting to get more professional results in their color grading, but just really didn't have the time to learn a complex program. It starts at just a one-time payment of $69, but Denver wanted to offer you guys a 20% off coupon. So if you're interested in getting that bigger budget cinematic look in your color, definitely click the link down in the description. Thank you, Cinema Grade, for sponsoring this video. What we're doing here is just trying different things, trying new tools to change up our workflow and keep that experimental mindset alive when we approach creativity. Though it's so important and crucial to take every aspect of your workflow seriously when you're trying to make something like a hobby or a passion into a full-time paying job, it can be so easy to allow your art to almost become robotic, to become automated. It's okay to take that pressure off of yourself and just be an amateur every once in a while. Sometimes the best work comes out of the seemingly most insignificant moments.